How do you start a video? And I like Legends of Zelda. From when I was a little babu playing my brother's already completed Majora's Mask file like a troglodyte, to more recently when I began a journey to play each Zelda game so that I could get a grasp on the series' overall design. Through this journey, I reaffirmed that every copy of Skyward Sword belongs in a big trash compactor. And I realized that Ocarina of Time is really good, despite its liver spots. Now I know there's a lot of sequelitis, schmequelitis fuckwads recently going around saying that Ocarina of Time is anything less than the greatest game ever made. But you know what? They're right, it's not. But that does not mean that Ocarina of Time hasn't earned its place atop the pillar of Nintendo's library. Ocarina of Time is a brilliant, beautiful game that excels at drawing the player into its world with great audio and visuals and creating enough amazing set pieces and areas to discover and explore to make 1,000 lasting memories in any player that experiences it. You'd have to be a real cold-hearted bastard to call this game shitty. That was me. I mean, I get it. It's an easy game to hate. There's a lot of annoying shit in it, like a lot of annoying shit. Who the fuck even made this owl? Whether you love Ocarina of Time or hate it, or, you know, you're a reasonable human being that's somewhere in the middle, I can sympathize with you. With that being established, when I say to you the Water Temple, the most notoriously hated dungeon, not just in this game, but in the entire Zelda lexicon, is actually the most brilliant dungeon in Ocarina of Time, and perhaps the whole damn series, well then you better put that in your pipe and smoke it. Okay, I know that was kind of a bold claim to make, so let me back the fuck up and give a little background. First off, let me refer you to a Zelda Dungeon analysis series by the snuggable Mark Brown, Boss Keys. In his episode on Ocarina of Time, he talks in greater detail about the concepts that we're going to use as our guiding tools today. He also believes that the Water Temple is the best dungeon in Ocarina of Time, but he said that in 2016. I said it in 2013, so get bodied. I'm sorry, that was uncalled for. Seriously, stop watching my hot garbage and go watch his not garbage. On to business! Since Zelda 1 on the NES, the element that has always made Zelda games the house name in dungeon crawlers is attributed to its dual-layered dungeon design. Every dungeon in Zelda is supposed to ask you to do two things: overcome the micro-challenges, or puzzles and combat scenarios confined to 1 or 2 rooms, while overcoming the macro-challenge, or piecing together a mental map of the dungeon and understanding the mechanics as a whole. This creates a physical satisfaction from overcoming micro-challenges and a mental satisfaction from solving overarching macro challenges. For example, in Zelda 1, you have to be able to figure out the challenge of navigating this lizard with his dick out while also trying to fight off these fucking wizards shooting Wi-Fi at you. It's tense, it's easy to grasp, and it's incredibly appealing to both action boner gamers and puzzled secretion gamers. Now, in 2D planes, the macro challenge can be little more than simply tasking you with navigating a map. Sure, sometimes it's a little more complex with multiple floors, or hell, even something as interesting as Eagle's Tower, where your own actions are constantly changing the layout of the dungeon. But you never really have to understand these 2D layouts as a 3D space. BAM! In strolls Ocarina of Time, shooting motherfuckers left and right, not giving two shits about nobody. Now everything is in 3D. You can observe anything, anywhere, from any angle, and make judgments about what you need to do based upon those observations. This opens up one of those springy snake cans that's just filled to the brim with new puzzle and navigation concepts. And just when you thought Ocarina was cool enough for introducing 3D spaces and buying you scotch even though you're underage, Ocarina of Time introduces these central set pieces that take center stage and usually change the layout of the entire dungeon. Whole dungeons can revolve around a central set piece and how you interact with it, creating this cohesive element to the macro challenge that forces you to understand how a change in one room can affect the rooms around you. Now, Ocarina of Time, the tender lover it is, eases players into this concept with the child dungeons. The kid dungeons present a set piece, and then a linear path to interact with that set piece. Simplistic in design, but hey, that's understandable. They're intro dungeons, and 3D is a wild new concept at this time, so it makes sense not to give the players a fucking migraine 60 minutes in. No, the set piece idea didn't drop into 4th gear until the Forest Temple. This dungeon represents a gigantic leap in overall quality. Suddenly, temples have complex navigation. There's keys now, and sometimes you'll work your ass off to get down a hallway and have a lock with no key just fucking staring at you, mocking you. And you go, fuck! And the lock goes, ooh! And you have to backtrack to find a key. Backtrack, now that's a dirty word. And normally it is. But this is your fault, fucker. You didn't search thoroughly enough, and when you find the missing key, you'll feel like a complete buffoon for missing it. This dungeon also introduced the concept of using your intuition to figure out that your actions in one room had an effect in an entirely different room. This concept is shown with the torches that light up when you murder some children in another room, and also with this circular platform that comes down in your fight with crazy skeletons that come the hell out of nowhere. Most importantly, you had to manipulate the very layout of the dungeon. This is knuckin' futz. You actually twist around an entire room so that the wall is on the floor. This is impossible to grasp or show in 2 dimensions. This is the true power of what Zelda dungeons can be. It finally brings to the table that next step in feeling like you're unraveling a dungeon's secrets. A true evolution of the ideas existent in 2D space. I can't wait to see what they do with these complex dungeons next. Wait, was that? Oh yeah, they do fucking nothing with them! Fire Temple, Shadow Temple, Spirit Temple, Bottom of the Well, Ice Cavern, Ganon's Bungalow, all of them. They all lack that joy of exploration present in the Forest Temple. Not once does any dungeon ask you to change the very layout of any room, or consider how your actions will affect another room, or hell, even consistently keep a set piece as the focus like the Forest did with its elevator thingy. The Fire Temple's stupid bullshit pillar barely even shows up. You don't know how to knock it down, and even when you do, you didn't hit that panel knowing it would drop a pillar. You were just hitting a button. The same thing with the Shadow Temple's boat. You see it early on, specifically do not register it as a fucking boat, and then forget about it until it's shoved in front of you later. The fucking Skulltula stays in your memory better. At least that's identifiable as an objective. Same with the Spirit Temple's light-faced statue thing. Can one person tell me they looked at that statue and said, oh yeah, I just need to shine some fucking light on it, it'll crumble to dust? No! He just grabbed its nipples and moved on without a second thought. The closest thing to mechanics similar to those in the Forest Temple is the one time in the Bottom of the Well that you drain the water, but you don't really have to do anything with that, so it doesn't count. Wait, drain the water? Wait, bring out the ancient tomes. I left something off in that dungeon roll call. What could I possibly, oh fuck the pretenses. The Water Temple! That dungeon has the most similar mechanics. In fact, the Water Temple's macro challenge and micro challenge feel almost like a natural evolution of those ideas present in that Forest Temple you all fucking love so much. Don't believe me? Let's take a look at the macro challenge here. The Water Temple presents the information you need to succeed in a cohesive way immediately. From the very second you walk in, it lays everything out onto the table. You have to float up to get to this big ass room where you can't go anywhere except down, setting the theme of going up and down. Going down the one path that isn't a dead end leads you to fish nipples. I mean the map. Great, this will help sort out, oh Jesus! Fucking hell, did someone make love to an Etch-a-Sketch? But hang on. You don't need a map to figure out what to do next. By lowering the water level, you can go down and see 2 things. A, there's this wall vagina you can't get to yet, and B, these torches are lit because they're not underwater anymore. This is a very subtle and seemingly obvious thing, but in one fell swoop, the Water Temple has explained its whole macro challenge. Having the water at a certain level will allow you to access things you can't access at other levels. We are 90 seconds in, and we already know everything we need to know to unravel this dungeon's secrets. It means you have to carefully observe your surroundings and make conscious decisions about whether or not to move the water level. You know, like an adventurer would. If you just ham-fistedly toot on your potato every time you see some Zelda triangles, then yeah, you're gonna waste a lot of time. But if you're smart, you only need to cycle through the 3 water levels twice. Even less if you use Ferori's fart. In fact, this dungeon is the only time I ever even used that item in all of my footage. Imagine that! The dungeon I consider to be the best is the only one in which I found the tool that eases exploration particularly helpful. Moreover, the water does not make the Water Temple just 4 dungeons layered on top of each other like Ganon's timeshare. Yes, the water acts as a gate to each of the pathways, but dry does not necessarily mean open, and liquidy does not necessarily mean closed. Use what you've observed from the dungeon to decide where you can go while the water is where it is. When you get to that point where you're face to face with the locked door and it's going, oh, you only have yourself to blame. It means you haven't fully explored your surroundings, or more likely, haven't properly understood the dungeon mechanic to realize this dinky box here floats up and there's a key under there. Fucking played! And like The mechanic is fair. The game isn't a dick about it. There is not once an instance of you spending 5 minutes going down one hallway and then turning back because the water isn't at the right level anymore. The level pulls some architecture stunt so that it doesn't matter what the water level is at. You've already bypassed the gate. You figured out how to navigate here. Now let's test another skill. The macro challenge of exploration and overcoming the challenge of a dungeon's layout that Zelda dungeons use to inject that precious dopamine into your brain is just so present here. The main set piece is present from the outset. It is explained to you in visceral gameplay terms rather than words. The game doesn't say, oh, Slink, don't forget you need to smash that pillar or something. Shine some light on a face. Every step you take forward is one that you figured out in your brain. You don't follow directions in the water temple. You make your own directions. You have an adventure. And that's way more satisfying than following some stupid objective marker. And that's nothing to say about the micro challenges, the little combat and puzzle challenges contained within one room. Even if the exploration and mental mapping present is really, really good, without any sort of pressure put on the player, you don't have an interesting dungeon. Just have Amnesia, the Dark Descent. As far as puzzles go, I'd like to take you back to the one where the block floats up and there's a key underneath. God, I love that one. Because it seems so obvious. The pathway is right there, hidden in plain sight. That feeling of, oh, duh, of course, how could I miss that? I'm such a fucking moron! That's the magic of a good puzzle. And the water temple is chock full with that kind of puzzle design. Just as a couple examples, there's this point where you need to bomb this obvious fake wall so you can pull this block behind it. Then you can't get the block on the switch until you realize you just got faked out, fool, because there's another way less obvious fake wall just to the side. Fucking duped! There's a switch behind this gate and you just can't figure out how to hit it, and you try everything and you accidentally perform a spin attack while mashing out of frustration, and then you realize how stupid you are. Fucking gyrated! Better have that volume up and pay attention to subtle sound cues or a bunch of enemies are gonna fall on your fucking stupid head. Fucking concuss! Missing a key? Then you should look more carefully at the Skulltula you nabbed earlier because it was guiding you to a path underneath where those boulders are falling. Fucking rocks! There's this room with these statues that basically just act as hookshot targets the whole time, but you need to figure out you can also climb on them and ride them out of the room. But don't use that hookshot target or the like will take you straight to the deep dark corners of 4chan. Fucking bored! So yeah, puzzles are good. Not to mention that the water temple houses, bar none, the greatest fight in the game, Dark Link. I fucking love this. Just look how it's set up. It's stunning. Is that me? Is that me standing over there staring at me? Oh shit, that's cool and all, but the thing that really makes Dark Link cool is that you can't take him on in a traditional way. He has the same amount of health as you, meaning that having a lot of hearts can actually be a downside for once. Locking on him and slashing at him with your sword will only have him teleport you behind you and anime shit. To beat him, you have to find other ways to hit him, like nuts or fire. You have to, figure it out. You see, he's super duper strong. I'm Cosby number 6, Boss Cosby. I feel like I've proven at this point that between the intuitive macro challenge and the brain scratching micro challenges, even if you can't agree that the water temple is really good, you can at least consolidate that there are some good things in it. So why does it get all the hate? Now is the point where I need to address the heavy ass iron elephant in the room, the boots. A lot of people say the reason they hate the water temple is because they hate having to go back and forth between all of Ocarina's terrible UI just to put on and take off the damn boots to navigate. While I will admit that is annoying and the iron boots do work better as an item in the 3DS remake, I do have one question to pose in response. Since when is going into your inventory and, using tools considered a bad thing? I mean, this dungeon requires a wide variety of tools, not just the iron boots. There will be times when you need to go into your inventory just because you need to consider what items you'll need coming up. And no one complains about that. And if you're smart and consider your options, there are ways to get around even equipping boots a lot of the time. You can just press A and dive to get past a bunch of those menus. The boots are a tool to use when you need to use them. But yes, they do work better as an item, so whatever. No, I think the problem people have with the water temple runs much more deeply than some kinky fashion. See, the reason that I think people tend to think the water temple is too hard is, well, because it is. At least in relation to the rest of Ocarina of Time. I mean, Think about it. The rest of this game focuses on spectacle over substance. It's all hitting dudes with hammers, diving past scythes, stabbing that horrible jizz monster from Xavier Renegade Angel, throwing pillars. It's challenging and fun, but not exactly brain taxing in the same way the Water Temple is. The way that Ocarina goes about doing its business is completely counter to everything the Water Temple is trying to do. So what was intended as this great puzzle to challenge your brain came off as this jagged, dissonant difficulty spike halfway through the game. While in other dungeons you can do things like not realize you've forgotten the compass, that shit can't fly in the Water Temple. Conversely, in the Water Temple, you can lose your shield halfway through and not even need to re-equip it, which wouldn't fly in any other dungeon of the game. The only dungeon that even comes close to the Water Temple's level of puzzling is the Forest Temple, and even then, the Forest Temple, I would say, still has a healthy amount of that brainless spectacle. The Water Temple is a black man in the rich white neighborhood that is Ocarina of Time, so it doesn't get the respect it deserves. So you can call me affirmative action, and I just realized this metaphor is awful. The Water Temple is a well-designed, non-linear dungeon in the wrong game at the wrong time. Now I know what half of you ingrates have already referenced in the comments. Aonuma has gone on record saying that the Water Temple was a mistake and a horribly designed dungeon, and most of the changes made in the 3DS remake revolve solely around changing up the Water Temple. And since when has Nintendo been right about anything? Ever? No! No! They're bad!